Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome is brought to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live Thursdays at 6 p.m. In the off-season, we've made the decision to go to every other week just to make sure that there's enough quality content to talk about. So you can follow along live on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel, Facebook page, or Twitter page. And if you are here with me live and you think of a question or a comment, please do send it all in. Love the interaction with the fans. Think it makes the show that much better. And if you miss the live version, but you still want to see what I have to say, that's great. When you're ready for us, we're ready for you. So you can see the archive version on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or you can download as a radio podcast. Any quality podcast carrier has us. And they also have the other shows. So lots more quality content. Jays from the Couch's main podcast, which is every other Monday and hosted by Shaun Doyle, a senior editor, founder, and he's always got lots of good stuff for you. And then the other show is the On Feck Circle, hosted by Steve Feck. That's Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And Steve's always got lots of interesting stuff as well. He can be a wise man, or sometimes he can just be a wise guy. So tune in and you'll probably catch a little bit of each on Feck Circle, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And well, here we are again. Happy Thursday evening, Blue Jay fans. And if any of you are American, then happy Thanksgiving to you. Hope everybody's having a good evening. I've got some interesting stuff this evening. So if you watch my show and if you're familiar with me a little bit and the way that I look at the Toronto Blue Jays, my outlook. So the show is called Sunny Side of the Dome. And basically, where it is realistic, in my mind, to be optimistic, I tend to favor the optimistic point of view if there is one. If the glass is half full, that's how I usually see it, rather than the glass is half empty. There are times, like every other human being on the planet, when I get frustrated, and unfortunately this is one of those times. So the content might look a little bit different than you've seen in the past, not as completely cheerful, but more really taking a look at the Blue Jays, where they are now, where I think they need to be headed. And right now I'm headed for a drink of water. Excuse me, voice gets so scratchy sometimes. Anyway, okay, so without further ado, leading off, as I generally do with transactions, and before I get to actual transactions, my last Nate Pearson update in terms of his participation in the Dominican Winter League, because he's actually wrapped that up now. So some final stats. He got into 12 games, pitched 1 inning each outing that he was in, and his final stats, I have to say, look pretty impressive. So he surrendered 5 hits, 1 run, and the run was actually unearned, and I believe 5 walks as well, and 16 strikeouts in 12 innings. So I'm pretty happy about what they've seen from Nate Pearson. I'm hoping that the front office is happy as well. And you know what? Fingers crossed. Maybe 2023 will be the year when he can actually stay healthy. I envision him in a bullpen role going forward. I don't know that being a starter with all the injuries that he's had, all the time that he's missed. I think the front office's focus really has to be on keeping him healthy and getting as much quality Major League Baseball production that they can from him. So I think that's going to end up being in the bullpen. And I mean, everyone's talked about how the Jays need bullpen help. Well, maybe Nate Pearson can be a part of that. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Okay, now to some actual transactions. So, since the last couple of weeks, there were some deadline dates in Major League Baseball. So, for one of them, we have the Rule 5 draft coming up in December. And there was a deadline, and that was November the 15th, to add prospects to the 40-man roster out of those that are Rule 5 eligible. And to be Rule 5 eligible, you need a certain amount of service time in the minor leagues. So the Jays had a number of players that fell into that category, and they actually selected four of them to the 40-man roster. Excuse me. So a little bit about them. So the four players were Orelvis Martinez, Yosver Zulueta, Addison Berger, and Spencer Horowitz. So, who are these guys? Firstly, Orelvis Martinez. If you're a Blue Jays fan, if you have been for any length of time, and you hear anything at all about their minor league system outside of just, okay, this is their major league team, but the farm system matters as well for a number of reasons, there's a pretty good chance that you have heard of Orelvis Martinez. He actually spent a little bit of time with the Blue Jays in spring training just in 2022, once spring training finally got going. Hit a few home runs, and some people got a little bit over enthused. Some fan type people, not the front office, but there were people that actually wanted them to add Orelvis to the major league roster. Well, sorry, folks, but he wasn't ready, and he's actually still not ready. He's an infielder. He's listed as a shortstop. From what I hear, they could eventually move him to third base. That's kind of interesting. Not that I'm pushing Matt Chapman out the door by any means, but he is free agent eligible at the end of 2023. So I'd love to see them retain his services. If for whatever reason they don't, though, maybe you're looking at his replacement here. So he's a very different type of player. Orelvis hit 30 home runs with Double-A this past season. The other parts of his game are what he needs to work on. So he finished the season with a batting average of 203, on base percentage of 286. So he actually learned to take some walks with a batting average of 203. 286 is actually not bad of an on base percentage. It's the batting average itself, learning to make more consistent contact that he needs to work on. Slugging percentage, not bad at 446 for an overall OPS of 732. He also needs to work on his defense. So he had 18 errors in 2022. So again, he's a work in progress, but he has some definite talent there. So we'll see him in the future, I imagine, in some capacity. Yosver Zulueta, he's a pitcher. He's someone that I'm rather excited about. He throws high 90s. And he's very much a strikeout pitcher. He pitched in basically all four levels of the Jays minor leagues, so both A-ball teams, Double-A, and he finished the season at Triple-A. He managed 13.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. Also someone that could do with a little bit better pitch command of the strike zone. Walks were a little bit high. ERA wasn't bad over the four levels there, so it was just a little bit under 4.3, 392, I think I've got there. So yeah, Zulueta is someone that, again, along with Nate Pearson, might be able to help the Blue Jays bullpen in 2023. We'll see. I mean, right now they seem to kind of have a bit of a full house. They've got some guys down there that are pretty good, but we'll see, knock on wood. I mean, injuries happen and all of that. So and the other two additions, so Addison Berger, an infielder, a left-handed hitter. Berger really seemed to figure something out in 2022. He had a very fine 939 OPS, and he's played some different positions, infield and so forth. So does he end up being used as a utility infielder? Maybe the Blue Jays have a few candidates to do that, so to speak. So he's a very interesting player, and I know some people are very excited about him. And Spencer Horwitz as well, another left-handed hitter. We know the Blue Jays want left-handed hitters, so here's someone else. He actually he had an OPS of 842. That's not bad. I'd heard of him as an outfielder, but checking his stats last year, looks like he played more first base than anything. And newsflash, if you haven't heard, Blue Jays already have a pretty good first baseman. So lad's not going anywhere, knock on wood. But Horowitz, yeah, see what the future holds for him, whether it's with the Jays. If he does really well, maybe he can be traded elsewhere. Don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, so those were the 4 additions. So in order to add, you also have to take guys off of the 40-man roster. They actually had 39 people on the 40-man roster, so they only had to remove 3. So they designated for assignment outfielders Raimel Tapia and Bradley Zimmer, and they actually released pitcher Foster Griffin. Foster Griffin wasn't that bad, but from what I've heard, he's actually signing on with a team in Japan, so that's why they gave him his outright release. So all the best to him. Hope you do well over there, and maybe he'll come back to MLB someday. We'll see. A few days later, on the 18th, there was another deadline, the non-tender deadline. So basically, any player that is arbitration eligible, Major League clubs have to decide, okay, worst case, if we can't sign this player and avoid arbitration, are we willing to pay him what the arbitrator awards this player, yes or no? And they answered yes, with a few exceptions. So again, Raimel Tapia, Bradley Zimmer, they've been non-tendered. They're both free agents, as well as Vinny Capra. Now, Vinny Capra, he later re-signed with the Blue Jays, so he's now a minor league player, not on their 40-man roster, still again with the organization. So welcome back. And yeah, Tapia, Zimmer, I mean, we had a look at them last year. They both did some good things for the Jays in spurts, probably looking for more consistency. With Tapia, too, he was projected to earn, I believe, $5.75 million in arbitration. That's a fair bit of money for someone who was, let's face it, fairly inconsistent all year. So they're either, if they're going to spend that kind of money, they're probably looking for someone a little more consistent. On the other hand, I wouldn't be completely shocked to see them re-sign Raimel Tapia, but for significantly less money than he would have gotten projected to get in arbitration. Jays have done that before. That the first time I remember actually was, I believe, 2014. They had traded for Justin Smoke, then they non-tendered him, and then a little while later they re-signed him, but for less money. So it's a strategy that they've used to save a little bit here and there. That they might do it with Tapia, or they might just move on from him and see what else they can get for the outfield. So excuse me just a second. All right, so to finish off the transactions and segue into what I usually call the heart of the order, which this evening, unfortunately, is more like the broken heart of the order. We've all heard it. If you're Blue Jays fans, I'm sure you know by now that outfielder Teoscar Hernandez was traded, of all teams, to the Seattle Mariners, the hated Mariners from that playoff series, in exchange for 2 pitchers. So one is a pitcher with major league experience, Eric Swanson, a right-hander. The other is a prospect, a left-handed pitcher named Adam Macko. So how do I feel about that? Well, I'm going to tell you, if you haven't already heard, if you haven't heard me ranting on Twitter, if you didn't read the article that I wrote, I'm not happy. I mean, as a fan, I really, really hoped that Hernandez would at least, even if they weren't going to extend him, which would have been great, at least if he could have played this one last season for the Blue Jays in 2023. We all know that he was free agent eligible at the end of 2023, and the Blue Jays might or might not have been able to retain his services. But to me, this was the year to go for it. This is the year to retain your major league talent, put together the best possible team that you can, and try to win it all in 2023, and then take it from there. So, Teoscar, who did they? Who was he? Who are they losing? Who did they trade away? Well, he's 30 years old. He turned 30 years old back in October, actually. Spent the last 5.5 years with the Blue Jays after they acquired him in a trade with the Houston Astros back in 2017. He has a career OPS plus of 121, so that's pretty good. His last few seasons have actually been very good. His career kind of got off to a bang early, and then he had a couple of seasons or a season and a half when maybe pitching had caught up to him and he hadn't yet adjusted. So, but lately he's really shown that promise with the bat. He's a two-time Silver Slugger. He was an All-Star in 2021. He was one of 4 Blue Jays that were All-Stars back in 2021. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say about him? We've watched him, the good, the bad. His defense, quite frankly, used to be terrible. I believe he's worked on it and he's gotten a lot better. It's not likely that he'll ever be a Gold Glove outfielder, which is kind of too bad and surprising in a way. In that, I mean, he has such physical talent. His speed is in the top percentiles, and his power hitting is certainly there. And yeah, I mean, I always thought the Blue Jays would win a championship and that he would be a significant contributor to it. So for me, it's very, very sad to see him go. Having said that, 2 things to me, in order to make this acceptable, 2 things needed to happen. 1, they needed to get a good return back for him. And 2, they need to replace his production in the lineup, in the outfield, because right now, as it stands, I mean, Tapia and Zimmer are gone. Jackie Bradley Jr. is a free agent. Now Hernandez is gone. They've got 2 outfielders right now, 2 major league outfielders, George Springer and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And I like those guys very much, and they're both very talented players, talented hitters. They've both spent a bit of time in the last couple years on the injured list. So we're not even sure we're going to get 150, 160 games from the 2 of them. So right now, they've got a gaping hole in that outfield. What are they going to do with that? What are they going to do about it? Yeah, I mean, why did they make this move? I don't know if it was about saving money. Hernandez is projected to earn around $14 million in arbitration. So now they don't have that money that they're going to be or would have been owing to him, that they can go out and make other moves, address other areas of need. Yeah, I mean, he's a right-handed hitter. A lot of the guys on the team are fairly similar in that they're right-handed hitters. Their style of hitting is somewhat similar. A lot of them, they hit for power. Some of them tend to strike out a fair bit, which is unfortunate. But usually with a power hitter, that's what you get a lot of the time. So were they trying very hard to change their lineup? Are they looking for a different mix? Do they want someone that is a very capable left-handed hitter instead? Well, maybe. The thing is, they haven't gone out and gotten him yet. So what do they do? Excuse me just a second. Okay, so who did they get? They got Eric Swanson. He's the right-handed pitcher with major league experience. He's played so far his whole career with the Seattle Mariners. He's a relief pitcher. So 4 years, he's 28 years old, by the way, and he has 3 more seasons of team control. So that's one good thing. To be fair, in 2022, his numbers were terrific. So in 57 games, he had an ERA of 168, FIP of 184, 1.7 walks per 9 innings, and 11.7 strikeouts per 9. So really, there was a lot to like about Swanson in 2022. Before that, in 2021, his numbers were good, but not great. His other 2 seasons, 2019 and 2020, if you're a Jays fan, you might not want to look at that because they're not very pretty. And really, he hasn't been consistent enough for long enough for me to be certain that he's going to be really good. I want him to be. Now, he's a Toronto Blue Jay. He's on our team, and I want him to do well for us. I wouldn't bet everything that I've got that it is going to happen that way, but let's hope. There's also been some talk that he wasn't as good in higher leverage situations. So, courtesy of a couple of my colleagues with Jays from the Couch who are extraordinary at finding and interpreting stats. So, in terms of weighted on base average, in low leverage situations, he had a 229. In medium leverage, 223. And in high leverage, he wasn't as good. He had a weighted on base average of 285. MLB average is 310. So he was still better than MLB average in those situations. The other thing is the Mariners really didn't use him in high leverage. He only got used that way in 8 innings. So the jury's kind of out as far as whether he can perform in those situations, and we'll see how the Jays end up utilizing him, whether he can really help them in key situations in close games. I mean, we have to wait and see what's going to happen, right? The other pitching prospect, left-handed pitcher Adam Mako, 21 years old. He grew up part of his childhood in Canada, so he's got some Canadian background there. He's got some really good stuff, high strikeouts. The walks are too high though. So in order for him to make it to MLB and succeed there, he's got to get better pitch command. So see what the Blue Jays have in him. So why is this particular trade frustrating for me? As I said, because 2023 is a year when the Blue Jays should be going all in and trying to win. Of course, I'm a lifelong Blue Jay fan, and I do care about their future. So even beyond 2023, I don't want them to turn into a pumpkin or the Washington Nationals. No offense if there's any Nats fans out there. I mean, they won a World Series in 2019, and what have they done since then? Well, traded away pretty much everybody, including Juan Soto. So that's not what I want. I want them to sustain some success and save that 5 times fast. But really, my main focus right now, as far as the Toronto Blue Jays goes, is the 2023 season. Now, baseball trade values, if you happen to look at that, some people do, some people not so much. According to them, it was an overpay for the Mariners to give up what they did to get Teoscar Hernandez. But the reason is, when you look at the values that they assign for each player, so for Hernandez, 1 year of Hernandez, 8.4. For Swanson himself, due to 3 years of team control, 10.4. So right there was more value there. And then they threw in Adam Mako at 5.4, for whom the clock hasn't even started yet. So the overall value, it might end up being very good when we look back on it 10 years from now or whatever that is. In terms of the value for the 2023 season, we probably won't see Adam Mako. So if we take the 10.4 that there is for Swanson and divide that by the 3 years of team control, you're looking at about 3.5. As compared to Hernandez and his 8.4. We didn't get enough value back for him right now to have as good a chance to win in the 2023 season. So that's one of the reasons why I'm a little bit frustrated. And yeah, excuse me a second. Anyway, okay, so we're getting to the point where we're almost out of time. And normally speaking, when I end off the shows, being the usually positive person that I try to be, I end it with a segment called Through Blue Jay Colored Glasses. So I put on my Blue Jay blue sunglasses and I talk about the current state of the team through my own perspective, which is usually a fairly positive one. Today, I'm not going to put on the Blue Jay colored glasses, and I'm going to call the end of the show without Blue Jay colored glasses, if you will, because I want to take a really hard look at the team, what I think of where they are now, and what I really think they need to do. So, last season in 2022, the best thing that the Blue Jays had going for them overall was their offense. So their team OPS 760 was tied for second in all of Major League Baseball. The LA Dodgers were number one. They were fourth in MLB in runs, scored at 775. So that wasn't a problem for them. Their pitching overall was middle of the pack. They were 15th in MLB with a 3.87 ERA. And basically, I kind of break that down into the really good group and the group that they really need to upgrade on if they want to go all the way. I mean, they had Alek Manoah. He finished top 3, in Cy Young voting, and congratulations to him. He finished third, and even that is an honor. He had a phenomenal season. Kevin Gausman also finished 10th, which, if you follow him on Twitter, I don't think he was too impressed by, but the Blue Jays fans know that he was also very good. They had some good pitching. They had Ross Stripling. They had Jordan Romano. There's a few other guys that they could name. What they need to do is really upgrade the bottom of the pitching staff. So what did they do? Well, they traded away one of their better hitters, and got a pitcher as well as a pitching prospect. Were they trading for an area of strength in order to upgrade an area that needed to be upgraded? I don't know. Maybe you can look at it that way. Myself, I don't want to see them take an area of strength and turn it into a weakness. I don't want them to lose that. That they've put $14 million back into payroll availability, plus $5.7 million for Tapia, minus the whatever Swanson is projected to earn in arbitration. It's between $1 and $2 million. I don't have the number in front of me, but whatever it is. So they've put a bunch of money back into payroll availability, and they haven't yet spent it. Now, I know that today is November the 24th. I know that there's still time. I mean, spring training games don't even start until February 25th. The regular season is more than 4 months away. It's March the 30th. So there isn't really a rush per se, but I'm feeling impatient as a fan, and I know that these things take time. If it's a free agent, if it's a quality free agent, he's going to be out there feeling out other offers. And even if he ends up signing with the Blue Jays, it's probably not going to happen overnight. So I understand those things, but maybe I'm letting my emotions get the better of me because I'm wanting to see something now. They traded away Hernandez, and so many people that I follow on Twitter said, don't judge this deal by itself. Look at the entire picture. There's bound to be more moves. Look at what the team looks like when opening day rolls around and see what other additions they've made, free agent signings, trades, whatever it is, because you know they're going to add to that team. To me, if they traded away Hernandez knowing that they had something lined up, why hasn't that something already materialized? Because for every day that it doesn't, it's a day that something else could fall apart. People blame Ross Atkins when he doesn't get a deal done, when he didn't make the trades that you might have wanted at the deadline. And I countered that with, do you know what he tried to do? Do you know what he had on the table that the other side rejected? Because if you don't have that information, how can you blame him? How do you know what he tried to do that was rejected? Well, the flip side of that is also true. People are trying to give the front office credit, saying, oh, they wouldn't have traded away Hernandez unless they had something else lined up. But if they have something else lined up, why hasn't it materialized yet? They probably got offers out on free agent, and maybe they proposed a trade or two. I don't know what's going on because I'm not behind the scenes. But every day that goes by when a quality addition doesn't happen is another day that they could miss out. If it's a free agent, he might end up signing elsewhere. If it's a trade, the team could decide to not trade that player, or they could decide to trade him to another team who maybe made them a better offer or just one that they like better. So much is up in the air right now. And right now, I don't like the way it feels. It feels like a salary dump. And there's no reason the Blue Jays should be salary dumping. They should be going all in it to win it. They're not a small market team. Ownership cannot cry poor. Rogers Communications is the second richest MLB owner next to Steve Cohen of the Mets. And they've got to act like it. And they have been acting like it. That this is the perplexing thing. They've been giving out big contracts to Ryu, to Springer, to Guzman, even to Barrios. After they traded for him, they extended him. I mean, Yusei Kikuchi, that wasn't peanuts. Even in MLB terms, $36 million is nothing to sneeze at. So they can't start crying poor now. If they're going to trade away players that are due to make some money, they've got to use that money and put it back into payroll and get quality players and go out there and win and do even better than they did in 2022. When this management team took over this team, Mark Shapiro, and then they brought in Ross Atkins as general manager, a lot of people right off the bat were pushing the panic button, saying, oh, these guys are from Cleveland, and look what they did in Cleveland. They never want to spend. Just as soon as players are getting good, they trade them away, and they can never go out and win it all. When was their last World Series? 1954 or something like that? I don't even know. And I defended them. I said, let's see what they do. Toronto isn't Cleveland. I believe that this management will spend when the time is right. And up until this trade, I really defended them. I really thought that overall they had done a good job, and no one trade, which I consider to be a very bad trade, does not negate every good thing that they've done up until a day before the trade. But you know what? My faith in them is a little bit shaken, and I want them to go out and prove me wrong. If trading for Teoscar Hernandez was their best trade to date, then trading him away might have been their worst. It's heartbreaking to me, and I want to see that it's going to work out. I want to be on here several months from now and say, you know what, I was totally wrong, and I own that. But we're not at that point yet, and I'll be a lot happier when they can get to that point, when they actually add somebody of quality, and I'm willing to take a step back and say, okay, you know what, if this is their finished product to start the season, then I like their chances. I hope we get to that point because we aren't there yet. And I know a lot of different fans feel differently about it. So anyway, that is my rant. And I hope you didn't find it to be too much of a downer, because usually I try to be on the positive side of things. But today I really just wanted to go out and express how I think. So anyone want to add their comments, you can always find me on Twitter. And anyway, so have a good Thursday evening, and come on, Blue Jays, let's do something, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have some much more positive things to talk about.